I've had lots of conversations with lots of adult friends that have teenagers. I have 3 teenagers in my house, and we're all concerned about a good, economical first vehicle, and you always want to think about the worst case scenario. Well, quite frankly, my son, I'm glad that he walked away from this, but he has mangled his 13 Dodge Avenger. Quite frankly, this Dodge Avenger, I did not intend for this thing to be his first vehicle. I picked this thing up for $800 and it needed an engine oil cooler. And as far as I'm concerned, a running, driving car is worth $2 grand. All I wanted to do with that car was put the $100 part on it, send it away, double my money, and everything would have been great. Well, they talked me into letting him keep it. Well, where this comes in is how this car performed when he totaled it last week. Now, I don't want you to think that I just gave him the car and he didn't pay me back for it. Yes, he paid me back for everything. I had to put a power steering pump on this, I had to put an idler arm on it, we had to do brakes, rotors, all sorts of things that we had to do to this car, and he paid for every bit of it. And when it came to the brakes, I made him do the brakes. So yeah, he had his own blood, sweat, and tears in this thing. But as a 17-year-old, your priorities are different. He decided he was going to go out and run around in weather that he really did not need to. So this car is freaking totaled. As you can see, it was on its roof. There is terra firma, being dirt, there is terra firma coming out of this thing. So this 13 Dodge Avenger, he flipped it, he totaled it. How did it perform? How did he walk away? Well, let's look at this thing. So, like I said, there is the first impact. He hit that tree pretty hard. I asked him how fast he was going. He said 45, and I said, thank you for your honesty. Because if he said he was going slow, I would have absolutely been able to call him on that. That was a pretty good impact. You know, you can see where the seam here has separated. I don't think that would have been welded. That probably would have just been seam sealer. But yeah, it pushed pretty far in. He's grabbed his trunk lid and pushed it open. To get it open, I actually had to reach in here and hit the emergency latch, and it still swung up even though there's a 6-inch gap there. But now, like I said, this back glass probably would have blown out with this impact rather than when it landed on its roof. Now, one thing of note is, watch this. That door opens and closes exquisitely. And pardon the trash, I had cleaned this thing out just shortly before. Now, if you were sitting in the back seat, you might have gotten a little bonk on the head there. But the cool part is, the front is fine. There is no worries with that part of the cabin. So yeah, right here, there's some evidence of side swipe when it came to hitting something else before the tree. This door has got a nice hefty little dinger in it. That door might be able to be sold to someone that doesn't care about a few aesthetic scratches. Again, let's do... there's a little hit at the bottom. So yeah, there's something going on there. It's got some dingers from where it was on the roof. You can see where it hit right here. And then it caved in a little bit above him. Well, let's go ahead and open. There's a little hit right there in the fender. And then glass from that back window. Now all this trash, I don't know if it was all in there. There was trash in the ditch, and I made sure that they got all of it. I didn't care if it's his or whose. I didn't want to be blamed for any trash left. We kind of owe that to society and the earth. But yeah, the seat's not tweaked. Airbags didn't go off. I'm really unsure as to why no side curtains or anything like that popped. You can see this is part... that headrest, when that pops, that's part of an impact. The passenger side had already been popped for some reason for a long time, but this is meant to help with backlash. So the headrest actually boings out forward on you. So yeah, here I am sitting where he was at. There is structural integrity in the roof. You can see that big dinger back there. You probably would have had a little bit of a pump on your head had you been sitting in that back seat. But as for the driver's seat, we're fine. Of course, just glass everywhere. It's even in the gauges there. But yeah, you know, when it comes to a 2013 Dodge Avenger, this thing actually performed the way that it should in the worst case scenario. You know, you always want to talk about real world people, always want to talk about getting an economical vehicle that survived. Well, this one right here, it did a little bit of everything except for hit somebody, another vehicle. This one did the whole tree impact, the whole swerve, the whole upside down thing. This one covered 3 or 4 wrecks in one. And, you know, while I'm not happy that the car's totaled, we didn't owe any money on it, so quite frankly, all we had to do is just take it off of our insurance and call it done. It's got a good motor in it. It's so wild. It was on its roof. It starts right up. It runs fine. Now, with it being upside down for a little bit, there was a little bit of oil that got past the piston rings and sat in the combustion chamber. But, you know, it smoked a little bit. It burned all that off. I was actually able to drive it from the front yard. The wrecker dropped it in the front yard. I was actually able to drive it all the way back here. The quarter panel was mashing on this back tire, so it was like it had the e-brakes on the whole time. But other than that, I was able to back it up. The only thing that sucked was, you know, not having a side view mirror trying to get it back here. But let's go ahead and get in the engine compartment, because one part of the wreck, you know, is structural integrity. The other part is going to be fluids. We have gasoline, oil, and all of this other stuff we have to contend with. So let's look at under the hood. So here we are under the hood. How this is pertinent is oils and fluids and other things like that that are flammable, as in gasoline and stuff like that. You can see right here in this busted grill that it's shiny. That was not shiny before, so that is some kind of fluids. Can't really smell what that is, but there's some fluids over here that earlier I did smell, and I'm pretty sure that's transmission fluid being under here. But yeah, it stayed together pretty well. These brackets are broken off those brand new headlights. This brand new headlight, it actually broke internally, so something hit hard enough to break it internally without actually shattering this, so that's pretty wild. Front bumper got torn completely off of it, but everything else stayed intact. So I've got a good 3.6 liters Pentastar. I guess what we're going to do is we're going to pull the engine and transmission and try to recoup, you know, maybe around $700-800 out of this thing, something like that, because this thing was running and driving just fine before it got into the crash. So, like I said, this vehicle did a decent job in staying together. He was allowed to get his little 17-year-old, the first lump you get when you're a teen. He got his first lump and his first lesson in real world, and he survived. He came around the curve too fast. It was a downhill curve. Turning left, he smacked a tree. So this was the first point of impact. This first point of impact blew out the back glass. So when the back glass blew out, he probably didn't know it yet. Well, he decided he was going to overcorrect. He dropped down into the ditch, and this thing flipped on its roof. So, again, we're thankful he walked away. He cannot be replaced. Cars can. So this 13 Avenger, is Dodge paying me for this? No, this Dodge, I owe it a debt, rather, because it helped my boy survive the first crash. So now this isn't our first rodeo with this body style of car. We bought a 2007 Chrysler Sebring, which is very much the same body style. We bought one of those very lightly used. We let somebody else take that new car hit, and we saved a bunch of money on it, buying it low mileage and early on. So now that little 07 Sebring, we drove it for about 7 years. And I want to say it had somewhere around 140,000 miles on it when we decided to go ahead and get rid of it. So now that is, like I said, not our first rodeo with this body style. Now this body style, when the 07 Sebring, we didn't get rid of it because it was wrecked like this 13 Avenger. We got rid of the Sebring for other reasons. The first being that the dash lights had gone out and I could not find the short. Was looking and looking and looking and could not find the short to figure out why the dash lights had gone out. So then we just went ahead and bought another car. We wound up buying a Ford Fusion. But what ultimately got us to get rid of that 07 Sebring was a faulty anti-lock brakes. The brakes, the pump that handles the anti-lock brakes, the pulsation there, it went bad. We tried to replace it, and none of the garages around here could actually get it bled. So the pedal would go to the floor. The car would still stop, but holy crap, if you weren't ready for it, it was scary. But now that 07 Sebring in all those years, it got into a bunch of little fender benders, just stupid piddly stuff. It got rear-ended 2 or 3 times. We got a little love tap in the driveway from somebody. Ultimately, it all got fixed. insurance would cover all of it. And then we wound up getting actually hit. My wife got hit in the driver's side front. There's a lady from a really illustrious neighborhood, a very fancy 7-figure neighborhood. She came down here and she was trying to pull into the little $89 hotel. That doesn't sound shady. She was trying to pull into the $89 hotel, got flustered, and wound up hitting my wife as she pulled into like 3 driveways down. I think it was. It was like the next little road down. Well, anyway, she was turning in, wound up hitting my wife, and then trying to turn out and go down to the hotel and turn back in. But now that lady, she called us as she was yelling and all sorts of stupid stuff about how they said we didn't have insurance. We had given her the insurance card, which was valid. The insurance company, when I spoke to them, they said, yeah, we did not tell her that you didn't have insurance. I'm guessing she was trying to save face in front of somebody to, I'm not saying to cover up fidelities or infidelities, but either way, we wound up getting yelled at for some stupid reason. But like I said, none of these were the reasons that we got rid of the car. This is this little 13 Avenger. Yeah, I didn't like working on it. I'd rather it had gone down the road, but I'm also glad that it kept my son safe. So for, the first several years of his life, he rode around in this body style. And then this body style ultimately wound up bringing him home, walking unscathed. I mean, he literally had one little scratch and it scabbed up instantly. Didn't even bleed. So, yes, we're kind of grateful to this body style of car. Will I buy another one? Probably not. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this little wreck review. I'm not even sure what to say, But yeah, I'm just telling you, this was an economical vehicle that was okay-ish for my son's first big boy screw up. Y'all take care. We'll see you again.